6:45. This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. The morning news edited by Danushka Madavala, read by Soundi Thavam. Oil prices rise again as buyers shun Russian crude. The President assures all necessary efforts will be taken to stop power cuts as soon as possible. Power cuts for a period of 7.5 hours in 2 slots will be imposed today as well. 37,000 metric tons of diesel has arrived at the Colombo port and unloading will commence this afternoon. Gazette to be issued suspending 600 non-essential imports. The Archbishop of Colombo met the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights. In foreign news, Russia faces war crimes probe for Ukraine invasion. In sports, Roman Abramovich says he plans to sell Chelsea club. The cost of oil surged yesterday as traders snapped up non-Russian oil, increasing the chance of further price increases at UK forecourts. Brent crude, the global benchmark for oil prices, passed $113 a barrel, its highest level since June 2014. Traders are struggling to sell Russian oil even at a discount because of the new difficulties in shipping and payments amid its invasion of Ukraine. Gas prices also doubled, which could feed through to energy bills. Almost 70% of Russian crude oil exports do not have a buyer, according to a UK-based research consultancy Energy Aspects. On Tuesday, oil trader Trafigura offered a cargo load of Russian crude oil at a record discount of $18.6 per barrel below the market rate for Brent, but could not find a buyer willing to take the risk. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa assures all necessary efforts will be taken to stop power cuts as soon as possible. The President instructed the relevant officials to provide uninterrupted power supply from the 5th of this month. The officials have reiterated that there will be no power cuts after the 5th of this month. A special meeting in this regard was held last morning at the Presidential Secretariat under the patronage of President Gotabaya Rajapaksa. The President instructed the officials to import the necessary stocks of fuel without delay. The Public Utilities Commission of Sri Lanka has announced power cuts for a period of 7.5 hours in 2 slots will be imposed today as well. The PUCSL said that power shedding for today will take place similar to yesterday. A 5-hour power cut will take place from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m, while a 2.5-hour power cut will be imposed from 6 p.m. to 11 p.m. in all areas, it added. Sri Lanka is currently facing an electricity crisis due to a lack of fuel to generate electricity. The Ministry of Energy said the payment for a ship carrying diesel was made yesterday and the unloading of diesel will commence this afternoon. The ministry said $31 million was paid for the ship carrying 37,300 tons of diesel that has arrived in Sri Lanka and is currently anchored outside the port of Colombo. Meanwhile, 4 ships carrying fuel are scheduled to arrive in Sri Lanka during the 9 days from tomorrow to the 12th of this month. Additional Secretary to the Ministry, Mr. Hettiarachchi, further stated that there is no fuel tanker in Sri Lankan waters that has to pay late fees. Meanwhile, due to the lack of diesel, long queues can be seen at filling stations in many parts of the island yesterday. This news broadcast comes to you from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.
The medical insurance plan that begins at the age of 60. Medi60 from Sri Lanka Insurance.
Minister Udaya Gammanpilla says that the government will be issuing a gazette suspending 600 non-essential imports. If anyone needs to import any item, they should inform such to the imports controller. It is expected to discourage the importation of non-essential items. The minister said that the gazette will be issued within this week. The Archbishop of Colombo, His Eminence Malcolm Cardinal Ranjith, met the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, Michelle Bachelet, yesterday. Archbishop Malcolm Cardinal Ranjith met Michelle Bachelet in Geneva, Switzerland last afternoon. According to the Archdiocese of Colombo, the Archbishop had held discussions on revealing the truth behind the 2019 Easter Sunday terror attacks and bringing justice to the victims. According to the Epidemiology Unit of the Health Ministry, 751 new COVID-19 infections were reported yesterday. According to the Epidemiology Unit report, 647,699 COVID-19 cases have been reported since the beginning of the pandemic. while 22,140 infected patients are currently under medical care at hospitals and homes. 609,292 patients have fully recovered and been discharged from hospitals. Sri Lanka Wednesday reported 23 deaths, raising the total to 16,267. That concludes local news.
The medical insurance plan that begins at the age of 60. Medi 60 from Sri Lanka Insurance. A health insurance plan to honor our most valued elders by the protectors of the nation. We now give our treasured senior citizens access to the very best medical insurance, specially tailored for anyone over 60. What's more, you don't need medical screening to access this policy. And Medi 60 covers a wide range of illnesses. Only from Sri Lanka Insurance. Call 0112 357 357.
The main news story is brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
The Ministry of Foreign Affairs continues to liaise closely with the Sri Lankan embassies in Ankara and Warsaw to facilitate the safe passage and evacuation of Sri Lankan expatriate students in Ukraine. 17 Sri Lankan nationals deported from Ukraine prior to the commencement of the hostilities, and since then the Foreign Ministry, in coordination with its overseas mission in Ankara and Warsaw, has facilitated the evacuation of a further 32 Sri Lankans from Ukraine via the Polish border. The remaining Sri Lankan nationals in Ukraine who are proceeding to the Polish border for return via Poland are kindly requested to contact officials of the Sri Lankan embassy in Warsaw or Ankara. The Foreign Ministry is also liaising with the Sri Lankan embassy in Moscow to facilitate the temporary voluntary return of Sri Lankan students in the Gomel State Medical University and Grodno State Medical University in Belarus. Students wishing to return temporarily from the two universities may contact the Sri Lanka Embassy in Moscow. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs will continue to update the families of Sri Lankan expatriates and students of the safety and the status of evacuation of their family members and children. For further inquiries, the Consular Affairs Division of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs could be contacted through the email address dgcons@mfa.gov.lk. Repeating that, dgcons@mfa.gov.lk. That was the main news story.
The main news story was brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
On to Watchlight. The health authorities warned that there is a possibility of the increase of dengue patients in the near future in the Western Province with the onset of the monsoon rains. The health authorities said drones will be used to identify the dengue mosquito breeding places in the Western Province and came to you in Watchlight.
World News. Brought to you by courtesy of...
No matter what anyone says, for your lease, visit the Leasing Mahagethara. People's Leasing, Friendly Leasing Mahagethara. More information from the nearest People's Leasing branch.
People's Leasing, the trusted leader.
Making headlines this morning, Russia faces war crimes probe for Ukraine invasion. Isolated Western Australia state reopens 2 years into the pandemic. And green light for historic plastic pollution treaty. The International Criminal Court opens an investigation into potential war crimes by Russia in Ukraine. It comes as Russia intensifies its attacks on key Ukrainian cities, with fighting raging for a 7th day in the north, east and south. The mayor of the city of Kherson says the area is under the control of Russian forces. The UN General Assembly votes to condemn Russia's invasion in its first emergency meeting since 1997. Moscow's defense ministry has admitted for the first time that 498 Russian soldiers have been killed during its invasion of Ukraine. Talks between Ukraine and Russia are expected to resume as negotiators travel to Belarus for another meeting. Russian state-owned media outlets RT and Sputnik have been stopped from broadcasting across Europe after being banned by the EU, which accused them of spreading disinformation and propaganda. RT has also dropped off air in the UK because its feed comes via Europe. Western Australia has reopened its borders nearly 2 years after first sealing them to international visitors and other Australians because of the coronavirus pandemic. The Australian state is the last to drop its travel entry ban 4 months after the nation's biggest city, Sydney, welcomed back international travel. Western Australia insisted its policy was needed to stop the virus spreading, but critics attacked it for separating families in the same country. The world is set to get a global treaty to tackle plastic pollution. Nearly 200 countries have agreed to start negotiations on an international agreement to take action on the plastic crisis. UN members are tasked with developing an overarching framework for reducing plastic waste across the world. There is growing concern that discarded plastic is destroying habitats, harming wildlife, and contaminating the food chain. Supporters describe the move as one of the world's most ambitious environmental actions since the 1989 Montreal Protocol, which phased out ozone-depleting substances. Back to the headlines of the world news. Russia faces war crimes probe for Ukraine invasion. Isolated Western Australia state reopens 2 years into the pandemic. And green light for historic plastic pollution treaty. That concludes this bulletin of world news.
World News. Brought to you by courtesy of...
For your wheel lease, visit the Leasing Mahagedara. People's Leasing, friendly leasing Mahagedara. More information from the nearest People's Leasing branch.
People's Leasing, the trusted leader.
Development News is brought to you by Let's take coal out of the coconut tree and make the island thriving and prosperous. Call our hotline 1928. WhatsApp 070 400 1928.
The government of Myanmar has granted pardon to the 7 Sri Lankan fishermen who were imprisoned and serving their sentences in jail. The fishermen were pardoned in view of the existing cordial bilateral relations between Myanmar and Sri Lanka on humanitarian grounds and in commemoration of the Myanmar Diamond Jubilee Union Day, the Foreign Ministry said. Sri Lankan fishing vessel Tushan Putta with 7 Sri Lankan fishermen was taken into custody by the Myanmar authorities on the 3rd of December 2021 as they had encroached into Myanmar waters. The skipper was given a 7-year jail term while the crew was sentenced to 5 years in prison. That's development news, sports news up next.
Development News was brought to you by the coconut tree is well grown in almost all the parts of the island. It is an exceptional source of extra income. The shell, the husk and almost all the parts of the coconut tree makes you money, providing you with an excellent extra source of income. It will also help to nourish the economy of the country. You will be guided with all necessary informations regarding the coconut cultivation, with the novel cultivation techniques and all other related and upgraded informations by the Coconut Research Institute, Lunavilla. Call our hotline 1928. WhatsApp 070 400 1928.
Sports News is brought to you by
Sampath Bank. We present your future.
Chelsea owner Roman Abramovich says he is planning to sell the club. In a statement on the Premier League club's website, businessman Abramovich said he had made incredibly difficult decisions which pained him. That led to speculation Abramovich, who has loaned the club more than 1.5 billion sterling pounds, would put Chelsea up for sale, and billionaire Hans-Joe Weiss told Swiss newspaper Blick on Wednesday that he had been offered the chance to buy the club. Weiss said Abramovich wanted to get rid of Chelsea quickly after the threat of sanctions was raised in Parliament. Games publisher Electronic Arts will remove the Russian national team and all other Russian teams from FIFA 22 and associated games, it has announced. It was doing so to stand in solidarity with the Ukrainian people, the company tweeted. It comes as football's governing bodies FIFA and UEFA said Russia's national side and clubs will be banned from all competitions. Ukraine has asked the video games industry to do more. That's sports news, business news to follow.
Cash through NSP globally and win wonderful gifts locally. From October 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2022. Remit a minimum of $100 or an equivalent amount in any foreign currency 3 times through NSB You Trust.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
Maxons, a manufacturer of Multilac paints and Mactiles floor tiles, has launched an innovative new CSR project. In collaboration with the University of Colombo, Maxons Group is offering a certificate course in organic agriculture aimed at supporting toxin-free agriculture. That's business news, economic news to follow.
Business News, sponsored by
Cash through NSP globally and win wonderful gifts locally. Will you be the lucky winner of the NSP Golden Jubilee? 50 gold sovereigns for the top prize winner of the NSP Golden Jubilee, scooters for the 10 second prize winners, iPhones for the 10 third prize winners, mountain bikes for the 29 fourth prize winners. From October 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2022. Remit a minimum of $100 or an equivalent amount in any foreign currency 3 times through NSB U Trust.
Economic news, courtesy of...
I bought my daughter a laptop for her work by managing my finances. Whatever the expenses may be, I can't afford to miss out on life's special moments like her birthday or our anniversary. So you need to invest to make your family's future flourish.
Saving money isn't easy when you have responsibilities. That's why we promise to give you the best returns and guarantee on your investment. LOLC Finance Fixed Deposits. Maximize your savings. LOLC Finance PLC, incorporated on the 13th of December 2001, is rated SLA stable by ICRA Lanka Limited and is licensed by the Monetary Board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka under the Finance Business Act number 42 of 2011.
Trade Minister Bandula Gunawardena rejects the opposition member's statement regarding the prices of rice will increase up to 300 rupees per kilo during the Sinhala and Hindu New Year festive season. The minister said the statement is baseless and he alleged that it is a part of a malicious campaign carried out by bankrupt opposition elements. The minister also rejected the statement with regard to the scarcity of formalin in the country. The opposition is creating false stories to misguide the general public and put them in further trouble, the minister added. That's economic news.
Saving money isn't easy when you have responsibility. That's why we promise to give you the best returns and guarantee on your investment. LOLC Finance Fixed Deposits. Maximize your savings. LOLC Finance PLC, incorporated on the 13th of December 2001, is rated SLA stable by ICRA Lanka Limited and is licensed by the Monetary Board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka under the Finance Business Act number 42 of 2011.
On to the weather report to conclude. The low-pressure area of the southwest Bay of Bengal and the adjoining southeast Bay of Bengal is likely to intensify further into a depression during the next 24 hours and move west-northwestward off the east coast of Sri Lanka during the next few days. Cloudy skies can be expected in the northern, north-central, eastern, Uva and central provinces. Showers will occur at times in the northern, north-central, eastern, Uva and central provinces. Heavy showers above 100 millimeters can be expected at some places in the eastern, north-central and Uva provinces and in the Matale district. Showers or thundershowers will occur elsewhere during the evening or night. Fairly heavy showers above 50 millimeters can be expected at some places in the Sabragamo province and in the Gaul and Marchara districts. To conclude this bulletin of news, a recap of the headlines. Oil prices rise again as buyers shun Russian crude. The President assures all necessary efforts will be taken to stop power cuts as soon as possible. Power cuts for a period of 7.5 hours in 2 slots will be imposed today as well. 37,000 metric tons of diesel has arrived at the Colombo port and unloading will commence this afternoon. Gazette to be issued suspending 600 non-essential imports. The Archbishop of Colombo met the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights. In foreign news, Russia faces war crimes probe for Ukraine invasion. And in sports, Roman Abramovich says he plans to sell Chelsea club. That concludes this morning's news broadcast.